Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an update, an amazing interview, an update on an absolutely horrific experience that I shared I'd say a couple of months ago. And the subscriber that shared it with me, former Marine, or actually he is a Marine for life, contacted me after yesterday's second half when I did a little kind of in memory of 9/11 video, and just said, he was touched by that and he wanted to share an update, share some more information on that horrific experience. So before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They are appreciated, and folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so yesterday, 9/11, I had done a memorial piece, kind of like a we will never forget. And I will never forget, one, as a New Yorker, and just, that day is very powerful for me. My city where I live, it's a very small city in upstate New York, the foothills of the Adirondacks, the real Adirondacks, the northern part, not the western part. Glens Falls, New York. We had about 6 firemen that went down, and because of that, those firemen were given or appreciated, or whatever you want to call it. We received a couple of I-beams from Tower 1 and Tower 2, and our city created this beautiful memorial where we have 2 replica towers and just this beautiful remembrance wall. One I-beam sits across the remembrance wall, and the I-beam that came from Tower 2 is part of Tower 2 and kind of sits in the peak of it. It's just a really beautiful memorial. Well, the Marine that shared this experience with us a couple months back, really appreciated that and reached out and said, I had listened to the upload. I really liked it. You did a great job. But there's a couple things that I want you to correct and a couple things that I left out. And one is my pronunciation of the name, the area. Mukalami is the area where that occurred, or the event occurred, which, while Mukalami Peak stands much lower than its neighbors in the Mukalami Wilderness, it makes up for the lack of its height and vistas. The peak is situated in the west portion of 105,165 acre Mukalimi Wilderness area, about 15 miles west of the Sierra Crest. It rises dramatically about 4,500 feet above the North Fork of the Mukalimi River and commands views of the Desolation Wilderness, Round Top, Highland Peak area, and the Carson Iceberg Wilderness. On clear days, the coastal ranges, including Mount Diablo, are clearly visible. What it lacks in approaches, the summit views compensate. Mukalimi Peak can be climbed by either the northwest or northeast ridge. Both are rather easy Class 2 hiking due to a relative remoteness of the peak. It seems only a few dozen ascents per year. The most common and quickest approach is from the Tanglefoot Trail head located in the southwest. The peak can also be approached from the Silver Lake area or from Mount Reba vicinity off of Highway 4. All approaches to the peak are somewhat long and will involve several miles of off-trail hiking. Winter attempts are possible, but if not all service roads are closed, making for exceptionally long approaches. So that's the area. It kind of sits real close to the Nevada-California state line, and it's just south of Bridgeport, California. It kind of sits. To me, it looks like it's located in the Sierra Nevadas, but it is and it isn't, per All Trails and a couple of other websites that I looked into. Now, the name was one of the big ones, Mukalimi, and he first wanted me to start off with this. Jeff, first, it's squads, not teams. You kept saying teams. A squad is 12 to 13 men divided into 3 teams of 4, or they can be called fire teams as well. So that was a big one. But when I got off of the phone with this gentleman the day I received it, I had taken a bunch of notes and I just wanted to share it. I'm not a storytelling channel. I'm not some creepypasta channel where, I have writers writing for me. I am not creative in any shape or form. I'm a researcher. I like to research. And when a experience blows me away, I'm going to share it as best as I can with you. And he understood that. So let's get a kind of refresher, and then I'll share the updates and corrections. All right, Jeff, I'm a Marine. I am a comment and live stream lurker. Anyway, I was involved in a training exercise, turn live fire assault. Name and rank and date all do not matter and will not be shared. The military/government, they won't know it was me, but they will know the incident right off. It occurred in the right around Lost Canyon area in California. There are 4 Lost Canyon areas in California. This one is just south of Bridgeport. We were involved in the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training out of Bridgeport, California. There were 2 squads, 13 men each squad, total 26. Remember, Jeff, the military has operations monitoring flag words online. This is pre-2000 USA. I was already in Afghanistan. Training missions, etc. All men, both squads called in for a briefing. So they had been training out in the area of the Sierra Nevadas and whatnot. They weren't in this area yet. They had been training for 8 days. And So these 26 guys only knew each other for X amount of time, but within that period of time, they grew a bond together. They knew this was, each squad knew, hey, this is us. This is us. We're, we're a unit. We are us. Our 26, and hopefully we will be deployed together in Afghanistan and in fighting with each, a side of each other. So they get called back to Bridgeport to the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center and for a debriefing. Apparently 4 hikers were out there camping. What was stated was 4 hikers were out in the Mokelumne Peak and they were camping a couple days. 3 barely made it out of there alive. They are hospitalized. They are very, very near death. Forest rangers have called us in to assist with whatever attacked them. There was no kind of example or whatnot of what attacked, what attacked these hikers. Also, I want very quickly to make this known that the Mokelumne Peak the majority of it is granite or granitic rock, which many of us in the paranormal cryptid communities know granite is a kind of like a conductor or whatnot for the paranormal. I don't know why, as well as quartz. Question, why cannot the forest rangers handle this? They question each other amongst after this debriefing. They're going to help the Forest Service hunt down something. They end up meeting at the Salt Spring Reservoir, Lower Bear River Reservoir, and they push northeast up to the Mokelumne Peak. The terrain is rugged and it is very strange to what each man is used to hiking. And, he had made mention of there were ponds out there that were formed glacially, which they didn't look like a normal pond from the northeast or wherever he was from. They looked very alien to him. This terrain was very alien to the majority of the men. So that's one of the things that they really felt was off. They were told, use this as a tool or as a learning experience for more training before you men are deployed. Now, as they're hiking in, they are having conversations amongst each other. What do you think's going on? Why are we actively, we are using active rounds on American soil? They're all confused. One of the Marines, and he wouldn't say who, whether it be a squad leader or what, but had overheard them or someone in command talking about an engagement with a large creature. And that was brought up in this kind of hike in. And that kept getting talked about. There are like 25 of us, 26 of us in total with the squad leader. 2 squad leaders, but now there is one main kind of running both those squads. Why is there 26 of us plus whoever the Forest Service sends out to hunt down one animal? I think it's a big waste of time. You know how 20-year-olds talk. I have a lot of friends that were Marines or are Marines, and they joke and get pretty vulgar sometimes, like most men. But they are the baddest of the bad, and they among themselves this is bullshit. This is a big waste of our time and our talent. We should be over in Afghanistan kicking ass right now. So they end up getting towards this area called Blood Ridge, which started to trigger some of the guys. And they get to the tip of Salt Spring Reservoir from North Fork. And at that point, comms states, wait for further instructions. Wait right there. Do not engage in anything until further information and instruction. If anything is to come your way, let us know and we will tell you what to do. Couple of hours go by, and these guys are now, they've been sitting here for a couple of hours. They're resting. They got a couple campfires going on. Just relaxing. They think they're going to camp overnight, yet they don't have a tent. They don't have anything with them. They thought, we're going in to kill a bear, a wolf, whatever. 3 Marines show up out of the blue. The team leader, or squad leader, did not know any of them. These guys are young 20-year-old men full of piss and vinegar. Each from these 2 squads are all in their 20s, all just ready to go and fight. But when these 3 other Marines showed up, they were a completely different caliber. And how he explained it was, these guys were like the Marines from that commercial back in the day when, we were growing up. If you grew up in the 80s, the early 80s, there was a commercial where the few, the proud, the strong, the Marines were fighting a dragon. That's what these 3, these guys were just something of a different kind of wherever, whatever. They've seen a lot and they could tell. So the apparent one in charge of these 3 Marines starts discussing information with the squad leader, who is now ahead of both of these squads, what is going on. And at that point, they hike straight into the Mokalemi wilderness, and it is treacherous. It's also near dark, and it's dusk, but very treacherous. Like I said, granite rock, jagged areas, a lot of area that you shouldn't be hiking at night. But once again, these guys are on a mission. This is something that they're going to have to do along, someday overseas in the Middle East. So this is pretty much training exercise for them. The 3 that showed up definitely outranked everyone, including the squad leaders, their highest ranking Marine. Now was in charge of the operation. So the one, we'll just call him number 1, is now in charge, and he's not even asking questions or whatnot. He has got the answers right there. At this point, for some reason, He believes for information reasons or whatnot, the other squad leader, who is second in command of the two squads, when they joined into one, he ended up going back to Bridgeport for some reason. That is, I don't know. He didn't share that with me. I'm just going to make an assumption of he either hurt himself or it was for intelligence reasons to share information. Hey, these guys just got here. Because after those three showed up, there were no comms used until later on. The highest ranking Marine now in charge, they stop and are addressed. This is what is what. Be hyper aware. We have live ammo, and be aware of your teammate position if we are to engage. He is stressed and confused just like you. Everyone is stressed out because really no one knows what's going on except apparently these three guys. They break off into two lines of formation. The 12 Marines and each line, so 12 and 12 from the original Mountain Combat, each linemen who have been training with each other and trust each other, and one Marine from the three new ones is at the rear. So pretty much I drew a diagram just to show you how they are walking into this area. So they are walking in. The squad leader is here. Then you've got the 12 Marines. The number one is up kind of at an angle, and then 2 and 3 are off to the side. Make a V pattern, but have all the areas covered, which he thought was kind of strange. The main, like I said, number one is leading the hike. They hike in. Now, they are hiking for almost 4 hours. And like I said in the information about this area, these are long off-trail hikes, to get anywhere in Mokelumne. So they're hiking for 4 hours at this point and moving quietly, slowly. A lot of shitty terrain, crevices, ponds looking strange. And at this point, they break the two into one line. They hear some movement and they kind of slow down and break off. Excuse me, I hit pause for a reason. Okay, so at this point, they are still in their V pattern. The two in the end, the two new, so Marine 2 and 3, who are under one command, now commanding the whole operation, are talking quietly amongst themselves. Now, a couple of the Marines ahead of them that are part of the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Division there, they overheard what these two were discussing. Because they're not that far apart. So they're just chatting back and forth quietly, though, because they're further behind. And he overhears, I hope we aren't here to hunt one of those werewolf creatures. The main 24 are now informed what the hell creatures. The main 2 are now informed that what the hell werewolves are. The squad leader fills the 24 in, so they stop. And he says, fills the 24 in knowing this is against policy. So they take a break. After hearing the two Marines talking, they stop. I had messed up, sorry. So they're walking 4 hours in a V pattern. And the two Marines are in the back. And they're overheard talking about werewolves. Well, they stop for a moment and to kind of recoup. And the squad leader is overhearing them talking. I heard these guys talking about werewolves. What the fuck is a werewolf? What are we here for? What's going on? And the squad leader then says, this is against policy, but, there were 4 hikers. They were camping. 3 came out. They were barely alive. Something very deadly and very violent attacked them. Well, where are the forest rangers? They were the ones that called us in. Those 3 are actually running the show. We are here as added support for them to take out whatever is out there. Why do they keep saying werewolves? And then at that point, they start to hike in more. They get back into that V position. They proceed to hike going northeast. At about an hour is when shit hits the fan. Total time in the forest. So total time of everything since they left debriefing is now 7.5 hours. They hear this monstrous roaring echo. And at this point, everyone is on edge. The roar was really bassy, not like a growl. And he states, people talk about how Bigfoot, he's never had a Bigfoot encounter. He's never had a Dogman encounter. But people say, I heard this, growl or this grunt or whatever, and I felt it right in my chest. He said, people talk about that, but he goes, I felt this. We felt this roar. All of us felt this roar. It hit us, and it made our bodies vibrate. And they had talked about that later, right to their feet, they felt it. In their heads, a couple of the guys had talked about getting headaches after. A couple of the Marines nearly pissed themselves. They formed that V pattern. And so now they are back in that V pattern. And from squad leader to last man is no more than 200 feet. So now, boom, you've got this is where this comes in. You've got right here your main lead, your squad leader, Mountain, and then the 2. The forest at this point is less dense. It has thinned out, but much more rocky, much more dangerous. They are hiking into an area where they know something is out there, but they don't have the higher terrain. They don't have the upper advantage. So after hearing that growl, grunt, whatever you want to call it, they start moving up to get the higher ground. But they're not going to get it because this thing is above them. So, they're fighting an uphill battle, which in war is not the optimal position to have. You don't want to be fighting up. You'd much rather be fighting down. The only thing is said is safety's off. And if you hear me or 2 or 3 fire, you look and see who shot and where they shot at, and you fire that same area, and you keep an eye on your teammate, your battle buddy next to you. Do not shoot him. But so let's say number 1 is firing. We all shoot that way. Number 2, we all shoot that way. 3. don't break the formation. Stay in the V pattern. He watched number one. So the gentleman who contacted me watched number one the whole time. They get to a higher part of terrain and they see movement. They hadn't seen any kind of movement yet. They've heard this growl, this grunt, and they stop. They are told, secure an area, hold it down. The V pattern is now going to turn into a line that has a curve. So at that V, they all kind of form into each other and are like this, looking up. With all rounds aimed at one spot where the movement is. Both squad leader and one are now talking and pointing. We heard kind of another growl, or I don't know what, followed by a head that came out of the brushed creviced area. It was about, from what they could see, 3 to 4 times larger than a human head. Something that nobody should ever see. It was unearthly. And most certainly 20-year-old kids, even though they are Marines, they are kids, at 20 years old. To see something like this is not cool. At this point, this creature now stands up. And it was huge. It was a huge monster of a creature. The hair is sparsely covering its body from its kind of like neck down. Imagine a man that is hirsute, but thinly going from the upper chest down. You could see that it was a male for sure. It takes one step. And number one says, put this motherfucker down now or we are all going to die. 5.56 NATO rounds in burst fire by 28 Marines. It takes 4 steps and it is 30 feet away and drops. That is at least 840 rounds fired, 28 Marines, 3 bursts, 10 times, whatnot is... or the math equals whatever. So like 840 rounds were fired at this thing. He knows, or he figures that amount out because when this thing dropped, when it finally fell, he was getting ready to put a new magazine in. It falls face down with a wet, sickening thud. 1, 2, and 3 start talking amongst themselves. 2 and 3 go to check it to see if it is dead. There is a thumbs up. Number 1 motions for one of the men to come over to him, handing him something that looked like a sat phone, but not your standard radio comms. And then afterwards, all the Marines are told flip this thing over for measurements and info on it. It took all 28 to proceed to flip it over. It was that heavy. They get the measurements. The gentleman that contacted me, Jeff, the measurements are something I will never forget, ever. All 28 of us and my wife that I shared these measurements with, and whoever, if those guys had wives or whoever they shared it with, but he only shared it with his wife. 2 kids and a wife, and he's only shared it with her, and now me, and now you. Its height was 18 feet 9 inches tall. Its head was 65 inches in circumference. It's just an absolutely huge. The next mission was to get this thing to an area where a helicopter could come in and get it. So they all had climbing gear and fashioned it into kind of like a crude harness. They end up dragging it for somewhere between an eighth to a quarter of a mile, which felt like 5 miles by the time they were done. They'd been out there 7.5 hours, a little longer now. Flipped this thing over. Now they're kind of carrying it to a location that's rocky, bumpy, hilly, full of scrub brush. So yeah, they're beat by now. But once again, this is perfect training for what they're going to have to do in months to come, which they were deployed. They notice by the time they're getting to the area, they notice that it's got a very rancid smell. It was a musky, almost shit-like sweat smell. It wasn't like rotten meat. It wasn't nothing like that. It was almost like if a person hadn't bathed in a very, very long time. That musky, sweaty, but there was like a smell of shit because obviously it's dead and it had defecated. The helo comes in, drops a cargo net. They lay it out flat. They finally get this creature onto the cargo net the best they could, centered, and take the 4 corners, hook it to the winch that was lowered from the helicopter. As the helicopter is pulling this cable up, you could hear tension from the net because this thing was huge, and the cable. The copter had no issue, obviously, moving this thing. It was a CH-53 Super Stallion, which is a very powerful helicopter. Its weight guess was somewhere between 1,200 pounds easily, going off the measurements and dragging it. We wait 30 minutes or so for the other helicopter to come in. They're brought back to Bridgeport to debrief to the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center. We find out that, number one, the Marine that 1, 2, and 3 that nobody had ever seen before was an 05, a lieutenant colonel, an officer, which is amazing because he is out leading the, it's not it's rare, but it's not unheard of, but it is rare. An 07 Brigadier General addresses them on an amazing job, no casualties, no injuries. But this is a matter of national security at its highest level. They were sat down, they were told to sign these non-disclosures. While on active duty, if we are found to have talked to anyone, even the men that was with us, we would have been court-martialed, lost rank and pay, prison, possibly receive the death penalty for treasonous reasons. This is a highest level national security. Of course, they do talk to each other about it. Their Master Sergeant training officer told us not to after this debriefing, to get it out now. What did we just kill? Was that a Bigfoot? They're asking the Master Sergeant. No, that was not a Bigfoot. That was a giant. Like Kandahar or biblical Goliath. They're small in numbers worldwide, with some here in the States. If it didn't attack those 4 hikers, killing one, we probably would have never been aware of it. But it was a matter of public safety in case it did ever attack again, and obviously national security. They don't want the public to know. That's why there will be people commenting, this shit's fake, That's why people, I don't have the books down here now, But that's why people talk, Tom Horn, Stephen Quayle are, to me, heroes. To me, they're information givers. But to the people on the outside looking in, they are quacks. But they're not. They're in the know. But there are those people, those plants that want us not to know about this. So, yeah, it is national security issues. Who were those 3 Marines? Above my pay grade and clearance. All I know, special team in the Marines. And yeah, number 1 is an officer. He's an 05 lieutenant colonel. Now, men, this is the last time we speak of this. Understand? Yes, sir. Understood. Only his wife knows after they had 2 children and were raised. So their kids were raised. He never talked about this until he was, getting ready to be a granddad. He held this in, bottled it in. He's never talked about it, even with the few Marines that were there that night that he still talks to. And he wanted to share, but in his words, I lacked the courage to. Since his days in the Corps, he has become a devout man of God, just a firm believer in Christ our Savior. And when he heard the 2 Marines about a year ago, one from Camp Lejeune and the other that was in the Middle East that saw the Chimera, he then knew that it was time. It was time to share the information. These creatures are worldwide, and the government does know. And Jeff, after I shared that with you, after he was able to get it out and he heard it out, so more than 40 people tops that he knew of knew about this in this experience, he was able to sleep. Now, updates or corrections. Being young Marines, yes, we did measure the creature, and it was 18 inches, or 18 feet 9 inches. And being young men and Marines, we did measure its manhood, and it was 26 inches. We did not touch it for a girth measurement, but imagine a 2-liter bottle thickness. Its feet were somewhere between 34.5 inches. I said it weighed something like 1,200 pounds. Looking back at everything, now the more I think, closer to 1,500. Jeff, on the NDA, possibly execution, I'd imagine that being as a civilian as well. Because for some reason he remembers signing that NDA. There was nothing stated about when you're out of the Corps. So he's just imagining that if they ever did find who he was, that's why I never, home state he lives in now, whatnot. Like he said, it'd be hard to find out who he was, but they're going to know exactly what this is. And he also, at some point in time, put 2 and 2 together after being deployed and overseas, realized that these things, or those 3 men, not only were with the Corps, but were also with the CIA or some other clandestine freaking 3-letter agency designed for hunting creatures down. Now, I know in the first upload that I had done, there were some people that were like, great story, terrible reading, or whatnot. I'm not a storyteller. I also don't put stories together. What I do is when someone contacts me, if someone, a subscriber, wants to type out their experience, which I recommend doing, is great. I'll narrate it. But I'm not going to sit and with 10 pages of notes that I do put together in paragraphs. I try my best, but I'm not going to make that into a story format. I'm not a creepypasta channel. This isn't whatever channel someone's used to listening to. Scary stories to tell your kids at night. I am a research channel. This is my studio down here. I have a map right there of attacks and encounters. I've gone to the missing 411 location where Tom Mezek disappeared more than 100 times. I've caught in proof on camera of creatures, something being there multiple times. So yeah, I'm not a storyteller. I am a narrator. If someone wants to type out their encounter, I'll narrate it. If someone wants to come on the show, I'll interview them. But first and foremost, I'm a research channel, not a storytelling channel. So if someone wants to share their info, I'm going to get it out to you the best way I know how. And that's almost the way they tell it to me. One, to me, it's a hell of a lot more fucking believable than, 1992. I was doing this and we did that and this and that. No, I'm paragraphed anyway. I want to thank you guys. The channel has grown exponentially, and I got a lot planned. Fall is here. I can get back up to where Tom Mezek disappeared. It's a lot cooler. The bugs have died down, and I don't like going up there in the summer. One, because it's just ungodly hot. Two, tourists are not in Brant Lake, but tourists are on the Northway, and it's a pain in the ass going north from here. And fall to me is a better time. One, because that's when he disappeared, in fall. The other reason is because I've caught in more proof or evidence of something going on up there in the fall and early winter. So, but yeah, guys, thank you for just making this channel what it is, and it's just something special. So, and that's because of you guys, not me. I'm just doing what I think you guys want. So, with that being said, thank you once again for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives folks like me, you, and this gentleman a chance and a place to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. And God bless.